The night everything changed. Elena Rivers stood frozen in the doorway of her own office, her heart shattering into a million pieces. The dim light from the desk lamp cast shadows across the room, but she could see them clearly. Marcus, her fiancé of 3 years, had his arms wrapped around Jessica, Elena's business partner and best friend since college. They were kissing like the world was ending, completely unaware that Elena had returned early from the food supplier meeting. The papers in Elena's hand slipped to the floor. The sound made them jump apart. Marcus's face went pale, but Jessica's expression was something worse. She looked almost relieved, like she had been waiting for this moment. "Elena, this isn't what it looks like," Marcus said, the oldest lie in the world falling from his lips. But Elena wasn't listening. Her eyes moved to the open laptop on the desk, showing financial documents from their restaurant, the Golden Plate. Numbers that didn't make sense. Transfers she had never approved. Her stomach dropped as the full picture became clear. This wasn't just about cheating. This was about everything she had built. The cruel truth unfolds. "How long?" Elena's voice came out steady, though her hands shook. "How long have you been stealing from me?" Jessica stepped forward, smoothing her dress with hands that didn't tremble at all. "Stealing? Elena, don't be dramatic. Marcus and I have been running this business while you played chef. Someone had to make the real decisions." The words hit harder than a slap. For 3 years, Elena had poured her heart into the Golden Plate. She had created every recipe, trained every chef, built relationships with every supplier. She had trusted Jessica to handle the business side, while she focused on making their restaurant the best in the city. And she had trusted Marcus with her heart, her future, her dreams. "The investors know the truth," Marcus said, his voice cold now that the pretense was gone. "They know you've been difficult to work with. Unstable. Jessica and I have been protecting the business from your emotional decisions." Elena felt the room spin. "What are you talking about?" "The health inspection tomorrow," Jessica said, checking her phone like this conversation was boring her. "They're going to find some problems. Problems that will be traced back to your kitchen management. The investors are already prepared to remove you from the business. You can't do this." Elena's voice cracked. "I own 51% of this restaurant." Marcus smiled, and Elena realized she had never really known him at all. "Check your paperwork again, sweetheart. Remember those documents I asked you to sign last month? The ones I said were just insurance updates? You signed over controlling interest to the investor group. A group that Jessica and I now control." The fall from grace. The next 48 hours destroyed everything Elena had spent 5 years building. The health inspection found contaminated food in the storage area. Food that Elena knew she hadn't ordered. The story hit the local news. Elena's reputation as a chef crumbled overnight. The investors, all friends of Marcus from his country club, voted to remove her from the business entirely. Elena's lawyer delivered more bad news. The paperwork was legal. She had signed away her control without reading the fine print, trusting Marcus completely. She could fight it in court, but that would take years and money she didn't have. Marcus had made sure of that too. Their joint savings account was empty. He had withdrawn everything the day before the health inspection. "I'm sorry, Miss Rivers," her lawyer said, genuine sympathy in his old eyes. "But without funds for a legal battle, your options are limited. They're offering you $20,000 to walk away quietly. Given the health violations attached to your name, you might want to consider it." $20,000. For a business worth over $1 million. For 5 years of her life. For every dream she had ever had. Elena signed the papers with tears streaming down her face. Returned to nowhere. The bus ride to Millbrook took 6 hours. Elena watched the city fade behind her, replaced by rolling hills and small towns that time seemed to have forgotten. She hadn't been back to her hometown in 8 years, not since her grandmother's funeral. The old cottage on the edge of town had been sitting empty all that time, waiting. The key stuck in the lock, rusty from disuse. When Elena finally pushed the door open, dust motes danced in the afternoon sunlight. Everything was exactly as Grandma Rose had left it. The worn sofa with its faded floral pattern. The kitchen with its ancient stove. The photographs on the wall showing Elena as a child, flower on her nose, learning to bake in this very kitchen. Elena dropped her single suitcase on the floor and sank onto the sofa. The springs creaked under her weight. This was it. This was all she had left. A cottage that needed repairs, a ruined reputation, and $20,000 that wouldn't last long. For the first time since that terrible night in her office, Elena let herself completely break down. She cried for the business she had lost. She cried for the friend who had betrayed her. She cried for the man she had almost married, the man who had turned out to be a stranger wearing a mask. But most of all, she cried for the version of herself who had been foolish enough to trust so completely. The stranger in the market. 3 weeks later, Elena forced herself to leave the cottage. Her money was running low and she needed groceries. The Millbrook Farmers Market hadn't changed in 8 years. The same vendors sold the same products. Mrs. Chun still had the best vegetables. Old Tom still played guitar for tips. People stared at Elena as she walked past, and she knew they were whispering. Everyone in Millbrook had heard about her failure in the city. Elena was examining tomatoes at Mrs. Chen's stall when she felt someone watching her. She turned to find a man studying her with unusual intensity. He was tall, probably in his mid-30s, with dark hair that fell across his forehead and eyes that seemed to see right through her. He wore expensive clothes, but they looked comfortable on him, not like Marcus's designer suits that he had treated like armor. "You're selecting those all wrong," the man said, his voice deep and warm. Elena bristled. "Excuse me. The tomatoes." He stepped closer, and Elena caught the scent of cedar and something spicy. "You're looking at the color, but you should be feeling the weight. A good tomato is heavy for its size, firm but not hard. Here." He picked one up and held it out to her. Despite her irritation, Elena took the tomato. He was right. It was perfect. "You know tomatoes," she said, surprised. "I know food." His smile transformed his serious face. "And you're Elena Rivers. Your grandmother Rose used to make the best apple pie in 3 counties. She taught you to bake when you were 7 years old." Elena stepped back, suspicious. "How do you know that?" "Your grandmother and my father were friends. I spent a few summers here as a kid. You probably don't remember me. I was the weird teenager who read books under trees." He held out his hand. Adrian Cross. The name meant nothing to Elena, but something about him felt familiar. She shook his hand and warmth spread up her arm. She pulled away quickly. "I heard about what happened in the city," Adrian said quietly. "I'm sorry." Elena's walls slammed up. "I don't need pity." "Good. I'm not offering any." Adrian picked up a basket and started selecting vegetables with expert hands. "I'm offering a job." An unexpected offer. Elena stared at him. "What?" "I'm renovating the old Montgomery Mill on the river, turning it into a restaurant and event space. I need a chef. Someone who understands real food, not the pretentious garbage most fancy restaurants serve." Adrian handed his selections to Mrs. Chun, who was watching with undisguised curiosity. "Your grandmother's recipes alone would make it worth it." "You don't know anything about me," Elena said, even as hope fluttered in her chest. "I know you built the Golden Plate from nothing. I know every food critic in the city praised your seasonal menu. I know you were featured in 3 national magazines." Adrian's eyes met hers. "And I know you're talented enough that 2 people had to conspire together to steal what you built, because they couldn't create anything that good themselves." The words hit Elena hard. No one had said anything like that to her. Everyone had treated her like she had failed, like the health violations proved she was careless. But Adrian was right. Marcus and Jessica had needed each other to destroy her, because neither could match her talent alone. "Why would you want to hire someone with health violations on their record?" Elena asked, testing him. "Because I looked into those violations. Contaminated meat that wasn't on your usual supplier's truck. Security footage that mysteriously stopped working that night. A health inspector who retired and moved to the Caribbean the week after." Adrian's voice hardened. "I know a setup when I see one." Elena felt tears prick her eyes again. But this time they were different. Someone believed her. Someone saw the truth. "The job pays $60,000 a year to start," Adrian continued, "plus a percentage of profits once we open. You'd have complete control over the menu and kitchen. I don't cook, I just know how to run a business. We'd be partners, but in the kitchen, your word is law. Why are you doing this? Elena whispered. Adrian was quiet for a long moment. Because your grandmother was kind to me when I needed kindness. And because I recognize a survivor when I see one. You're not broken, Elena. You're angry. And angry people can do amazing things when they channel that energy the right way. Elena looked at this stranger who somehow saw her more clearly than people she had known for years. Every instinct told her to say no, to protect herself, to never trust anyone again. But a small voice inside her, the voice that sounded like Grandma Rose, whispered that maybe this was her chance. Not just to survive, but to rise from the ashes. When do I start? Elena asked. Adrian's smile lit up the entire market. How about tomorrow? I'll show you the space. Fair warning, it needs a lot of work. As Elena walked home with her groceries, she felt something she hadn't felt in weeks. It wasn't quite hope yet, but it was close. The mill's promise. The Montgomery Mill had been abandoned for 15 years. It sat on the banks of the Willow River, a massive stone building with huge windows that would have given incredible views when they weren't covered in grime. Elena stood in what would become the dining room, seeing past the dust and debris to the potential underneath. The kitchen equipment arrives next week, Adrian said, walking through the space with confident strides. I've ordered top-of-the-line everything. If you need something specific, let me know. Elena moved to the windows and rubbed away enough dirt to see the river flowing past. In the morning light, it sparkled like diamonds. This could be beautiful. That's the idea. Adrian came to stand beside her. I want to create something different. Not stuffy. Not pretentious. Just excellent food in a place that feels like home. That's what I wanted with the golden plate, Elena said softly. Before Marcus convinced me we needed to be fancier. More exclusive. I wanted people to feel welcome, not intimidated. Then that's what we'll build here. Adrian pulled out his phone and showed her architectural drawings. 60 seats. An open kitchen so people can watch you cook. A patio by the river for summer dining. And upstairs, a private event space for weddings and parties. Elena studied the drawings, her mind already filling with ideas. A seasonal menu that changed every month. Local ingredients from the farmer's market. Comfort food elevated to art. Her heart started beating faster with excitement she thought was dead. Adrian, she said slowly, why are you really doing this? And don't tell me it's just because of my grandmother. He was quiet for so long that Elena thought he wouldn't answer. When he finally spoke, his voice was rough with old pain. 5 years ago, my father invested $200,000 in a restaurant. He believed in the chef's vision. He trusted her business partner to manage the money properly. Adrian met her eyes. That restaurant was the golden plate. That chef was you. And that business partner was Jessica Martinez, who convinced my father to invest, then later told him you were unstable and drove his investment into the ground. He lost everything. The stress killed him 6 months later. Elena felt the blood drain from her face. I didn't know. Jessica never told me about any of the investors. She handled all of that. I know. Adrian's jaw tightened. I've spent 2 years investigating what really happened. I know Marcus swept in after my father died, using his country club connections to buy out the remaining investors for pennies on the dollar. I know he and Jessica planned the whole thing from the start. And I know you were the target they decided to use and throw away. So this is about revenge, Elena said slowly. You want to use me to get back at them? No. Adrian's voice was firm. This is about justice. And yes, I want Marcus and Jessica to see you succeed beyond anything they could imagine. I want them to watch you rise higher than they ever will. But Elena, I'm not using you. I'm offering you a real partnership. A chance to build something that's actually yours. Elena turned back to the window, her mind racing. Everything in her screamed to be cautious, to protect herself. But she was so tired of being afraid. And underneath Adrian's desire for justice, she heard something else. Pain. Loss. Grief. He understood what it felt like to be destroyed by people you should have been able to trust. Partners, she said finally. Equal partners. I need that in writing. Already drawn up by my lawyer. Adrian pulled papers from his briefcase. 50-50 split on everything. Complete creative control for you in the kitchen. Business decisions made jointly. And a clause that says neither of us can be forced out without violating terms so expensive it would bankrupt whoever tried it. Elena read through the contract carefully this time. She would never again sign something without understanding every word. The terms were exactly as Adrian had said. Fair. Protective. Real. She signed her name, and for the first time in months she felt like herself again. Building something real. The next 3 months transformed both the mill and Elena. Every morning, she arrived at dawn to work alongside the construction crew. She scrubbed floors, painted walls, and planned her kitchen with obsessive detail. Adrian was always there too, usually covered in dust, arguing with contractors or solving problems that seemed impossible. They fell into an easy rhythm. Elena would make coffee in the temporary kitchen setup, and they would review the day's work over breakfast. Adrian listened to her ideas about the menu, asking questions that showed he genuinely cared. Elena found herself looking forward to these morning meetings more than she wanted to admit. What if we did a rotating prix-fixe menu? Elena suggested one morning, sketching ideas on a napkin. 4 courses. Changes every 2 weeks based on what's fresh. People would have to trust us, but that's part of the experience. Adrian studied her sketch, his dark eyes thoughtful. It's risky. People like choices. People think they like choices, but too many options creates anxiety. Elena was warming to her idea now. We give them one perfect meal. If they trust us enough to come, they trust us enough to feed them right. I love it. Adrian's smile made Elena's heart skip. It's bold, different, exactly what this place should be. As spring turned to summer, the mill started to look like the restaurant of Elena's dreams. The dining room had exposed brick and warm wood, with Edison bulb chandeliers Adrian had found at an antique market. The kitchen was state-of-the-art but designed to be visible from the dining room through a wall of windows. The patio by the river had wrought iron tables under strings of fairy lights. But more than the physical space was changing, Elena felt herself changing too. The broken woman who had arrived in Millbrook was gone, replaced by someone stronger. Someone who had learned from her mistakes. Someone who wouldn't be a victim ever again. And then there was the way she felt when Adrian was near. The warmth that spread through her chest when he laughed at her jokes. The electricity that sparked when their hands accidentally touched. The way her heart raced when she caught him watching her with an expression she didn't dare name. Walls coming down. Tell me about your father, Elena said one evening. They were sitting on the patio taking a break from the endless work. The river whispered past, and fireflies danced in the growing darkness. Adrian was quiet for a long time. He was a dreamer. Always investing in people, in ideas and possibilities. My mother hated it. She wanted stability, security. They divorced when I was 12, and she took my sister back to Boston. Dad and I stayed here. He smiled sadly. We didn't have much money, but we had adventures. And he taught me that money doesn't matter as much as integrity. He sounds wonderful, Elena said softly. He was. And he believed in you, Elena. Not just as an investment but as a person. He came to the Golden Plate the week after he invested. Sat at the bar and watched you cook. Came home and told me he'd never seen someone put so much love into food. Adrian's voice grew thick. When Jessica told him you were the problem, he didn't believe it at first. But she was very convincing. She had documents. Evidence. And Dad was sick by then, too tired to fight. Elena felt tears slide down her cheeks. I'm so sorry. I wish I had known. I would have fought for him. I know you would have. Adrian reached over and gently wiped away her tears. His touch sent shivers across her skin. That's why I tracked you down. Not just for revenge, but because you deserved to know the truth. You deserved another chance. Their faces were inches apart now. Elena could feel Adrian's breath on her lips. Every warning voice in her head was screaming at her to pull away, to protect herself, to not risk her heart again. But she was tired of listening to fear. Adrian, she whispered. I'm scared. Of what? Of this. Of you. Of feeling something real and having it destroyed again. Adrian cupped her face in his hands. I can't promise nothing will ever hurt you again. Life doesn't work that way. But I can promise I will never lie to you. Never betray you. Never use you. You're not a means to an end, Elena. You're the whole point. When he kissed her, Elena felt like she was coming home. Not to a place but to a person. To herself. The kiss was gentle at first, tentative, like they were both afraid of breaking something precious. Then it deepened and Elena felt years of pain and loneliness melt away in the warmth of Adrian's arms. They pulled apart breathless. Adrian rested his forehead against hers. We should probably talk about this. Elena laughed, the sound surprising her. Probably. But later. Right now, I just want to enjoy feeling something good. The plan takes shape. As summer deepened, Elena and Adrian's relationship grew alongside their plans for the restaurant. They were careful at first, both wounded by past betrayals. But slowly, trust built between them. Elena found herself sharing dreams she had hidden for years. Adrian opened up about his fears and hopes. They became partners in every sense of the word. One night, as they lay together in Adrian's apartment above the mill, he said, I hired a private investigator. Elena propped herself up on one elbow. For what? To dig deeper into Marcus and Jessica. I want to know everything. Every shady deal, every lie, every corner they've cut. Adrian's expression was determined. They destroyed my father and tried to destroy you. I want to make sure they can't do it to anyone else. Elena's first instinct was to say no, to focus on their own success and let karma handle Marcus and Jessica. But then she thought about other young chefs who might trust Jessica. Other investors Marcus might manipulate. Other dreams that could be crushed by their greed. What did you find? She asked. Adrian pulled out a folder thick with documents. Marcus has been running the same scam for years. He targets successful women in business, romances them, gets access to their companies, then systematically destroys them and takes over. Jessica helps by playing the trusted friend. They've done it at least 4 times that I can prove. Elena felt sick. 4 times? For other women like me. Yes. 2 filed lawsuits but settled out of court with non-disclosure agreements. 1 just disappeared, moved to another country. The 4th one. Adrian's jaw tightened. She tried to kill herself. She survived, but she never recovered. Rage boiled up in Elena's chest. Hot and fierce and cleansing. We have to stop them. I was hoping you'd say that. Adrian spread the documents across the bed. The golden plate is failing. Turns out Marcus is a terrible chef and Jessica is a worse manager. They've been borrowing money to keep it afloat. The investors are getting nervous. Good, Elena said coldly. But here's the interesting part. They're planning to open a second location. They've been pitching it to new investors, using your recipes and your reputation to sell it. Adrian showed her a prospectus with her signature dishes listed. They're calling it the Golden Plate Family, making it seem like a successful expansion. Elena saw red. They're using my recipes? My work. Technically, any recipes created while you were part owner belong to the business. But morally, Adrian's smile was sharp. They're thieves. And I think we should expose them. How? The mill opens in 6 weeks. I've made sure word has spread in the industry. Food critics are already asking for preview reservations. And I may have let it slip to a few key people that you're behind it. Adrian pulled Elena close. I want to invite the top food critics, industry influencers, and all of Marcus and Jessica's investors to our opening night. I want them to see what you can do when you're actually supported instead of sabotaged. Elena's mind raced with possibilities. They'll come. Marcus won't be able to resist. He'll want to see me fail again. Exactly. But they won't see failure. They'll see excellence. They'll taste your food and realize what they lost. And then, Adrian's expression turned calculating. Then I'll make sure the investors see the financial documents my investigator obtained. Documents showing exactly how Marcus and Jessica have been mismanaging the Golden Plate and lying to investors. Is that legal? The investigator obtained them through perfectly legal means. And sharing accurate information with investors isn't illegal. It's actually the responsible thing to do. Adrian kissed her forehead. I'm not looking to break the law, Elena. Just to shine light on the truth. Elena thought about the woman who had tried to kill herself. About the others whose dreams had been destroyed. About Adrian's father, who had died from the stress of losing everything. Let's do it. But Adrian. Yes. I don't want this to be just about revenge. I want it to be about showing everyone who counted me out that they were wrong. I want the mill to succeed because it's genuinely excellent, not just because we exposed Marcus and Jessica. Adrian pulled her into a deep kiss. That's exactly what we'll do. We'll build something so good, so real that their lies can't touch it. And when they fall, it won't be because we pushed them. It'll be because the truth finally caught up. Preparing for battle. The next 6 weeks were a blur of preparation. Elena perfected her opening menu with obsessive attention to detail. She worked with local farmers to source the best ingredients. She hired a small staff of talented young cooks who had been overlooked by bigger restaurants. Adrian handled the business side, but he also helped in the kitchen, learning from Elena and supporting her vision. They tested every dish dozens of times. The first course was a deceptively simple tomato salad with burrata cheese and basil oil. The tomatoes came from Mrs. Chen's garden, allowed to ripen until they were perfect. The second course was a delicate pasta with brown butter and sage, the pasta made fresh every day. The third course was the main event. Perfectly cooked local beef with roasted seasonal vegetables, and a red wine reduction that took 3 days to make properly. The fourth course was Elena's grandmother's apple pie, reimagined with a caramelized crust and vanilla bean ice cream made in-house. It's perfect, Adrian said after their final tasting. Every bite tells a story. My grandmother used to say that food is love made visible, Elena replied. This menu is my love letter to everyone who believed in me, including you. Adrian pulled her close, and Elena felt truly happy for the first time in years. She had found her purpose again. She had found her voice. And she had found love with a man who valued her for exactly who she was. But underneath the happiness was a current of anticipation. In 2 weeks, Marcus and Jessica would walk through the doors of the mill. They would see what Elena had built from the ashes of what they destroyed. And they would realize too late that they had made a terrible mistake when they underestimated her. The invitation. Elena insisted on hand-delivering the invitation to the golden plate. She hadn't been back since that terrible night, and she needed to face it. Adrian offered to come with her, but she said no. This was something she needed to do alone. The restaurant looked tired in the harsh afternoon light. The sign needed repainting. The windows weren't as clean as Elena would have kept them. She pushed open the door and stepped inside. Jessica was at the host's stand, looking older and more stressed than Elena remembered. When she looked up and saw Elena, her face went pale. What are you doing here? Jessica's voice was sharp with fear. Delivering an invitation. Elena placed the cream-colored envelope on the stand. To the opening of my new restaurant, The Mill. I'd be honored if you and Marcus would attend. Jessica stared at the invitation like it might bite her. You have a new restaurant? Opening in 2 weeks. It's going to be quite an event. Top food critics. Industry influencers. Major investors. Elena smiled sweetly. I'd hate for you to miss it. Why would we come watch you fail again? Jessica tried to sound confident, but Elena heard the uncertainty underneath. Because you're curious. Because you want to see what I've built. And because deep down, you're afraid that maybe you made a mistake when you stole my restaurant. Elena leaned closer. You should be afraid, Jessica. You and Marcus took everything from me. But you forgot one important thing. What's that? You took my business, but you couldn't take my talent. And talent always wins in the end. Elena straightened. See you in 2 weeks. Dress nicely. It's going to be a night to remember. She walked out, leaving Jessica staring after her with an expression of dawning dread. Elena felt powerful. Not broken. Not afraid. Ready. The war was about to begin. And this time Elena wasn't going to lose.